Yo guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today we need to talk about Kent Hughes, the GM of the Montreal Canadiens, calling out Juraj Slafkovsky for his preseason performance. Now we've seen so much coverage surrounding Slafkovsky going into his first season after his draft and heading into the preseason, seeing what he might do, and his preseason and scrimmage play has been rather complicated, but Kent Hughes had some choice words surrounding it. But what did Kent Hughes say, and what happens next in Juraj Slafkovsky's career? Does he play in the NHL? Does he play in the AHL? What happens with him? Make sure you watch till the end for all of the news, all of the coverage, and all of the analysis. And make sure you hit that subscribe button if you are new. 45% of you guys aren't subscribed, so if you like hockey content, this channel is the place to be. Now, I'll just say this. For me personally, you guys know I did not have Juraj Slafkovsky number one. I had him third in my draft rankings, just shy behind Shane Wright and Logan Cooley. But to me, there were a lot of potential areas where Slafkovsky could improve and prove to be maybe the best player of the 2022 NHL draft. And of course, the Habs took him first overall, and I think one of the main reasons why I thought they did was because of some of the NHL readiness and some of the poise he's already shown. And when you look at some of the stats, of course, you look at, the Olympics, where he got 7 goals in 7 games. You look at the World Championships, 9 points in 8 games. Internationally, playing with Slovakia, he was an absolute beast. But I feel like there was some points, especially during the Liga season, where playing against men, playing against pro competition still, there were some issues truly being an impact player every single shift. And I thought there could have been some issues translating to the NHL immediately, and that's why I said maybe he could be on a line with Cole Caulfield or Nick Suzuki, or he could be in the AHL. To me, his development could be pretty linear, but I always thought that him coming into the year, being a rookie, getting a Calder-worthy season, for instance, looking amazing was always out of the question, because to me, I don't think he was going to dominate at all. And especially with the way he's played in the preseason, so far, it looks like his rookie season, even if he has one with the Habs, might not be all too impactful either. And then that leads me to a tweet by the Score NHL, which is where I found out about this interview, but the title goes, Habs GM Slafkovsky's preseason play has been a little underwhelming, and especially considering what we've seen so far, where obviously in the scrimmage play in the rookie tournament, he looked decent, but wasn't dominating by any means. And you look at the preseason games he has played, where even if I haven't been able to see the entire games, I have seen shifts here or there, he hasn't looked as impactful as some people might have wanted him to be. And I also get the feeling that he's being a little bit too cautious here as well, trying to get in favor of the coaches, because it feels like he's being a little bit hesitant to make bigger plays and step up and play more consistently. And I think that is a reason why his preseason has gone under such scrutiny. But the funny thing is, of people calling him a bust outright, I never expected Slafkovsky to be this amazing rookie, even if he did land a spot. And I think this might actually be what's best for Slafkovsky, in all honesty. If he sucks this preseason, if he gets sent back to Laval and plays a full AHL year, if he's on that first line getting power play minutes, to me, he could have an unbelievably solid season and truly get great confidence in North America. To me, that's something that is extremely valuable, something they didn't give Jesperi Kotkaniemi, for instance, and I think would be better for Slafkovsky's long-term development. So even though these questions may arise, I still think it's way too premature to make too many judgment cases with Slafkovsky right now. But then we go on to the actual article at hand. Again, Habs GM Slafkovsky's preseason play has been a little bit underwhelming. Montreal Canadiens general manager Kent Hughes wants to see more out of the 2022 first-round pick Juraj Slafkovsky, and here we go with the actual quotes at hand. I thought the 2 exhibition games were a little underwhelming for him, but the 2 rookie games in Buffalo, he was great, Hughes said on Thursday's Ray and Dreg's podcast. So again, some more context behind this, which I totally agree. I mean, to me, even if I had lower expectations for him this year than most, I would definitely agree that his play has been underwhelming and that there's been way too many cautious plays with him. And in the 2 preseason games, we definitely should expect to see more. And in the 2 rookie games, he was solid enough. I mean, I think he probably should have been maybe a little bit more impactful, but he also made some really good isolated plays. But also, it's a rookie tournament. It's just to get these guys back going, especially compared to even preseason play. It's nowhere near the same level. So I would expect Slafkovsky to at least be decent in those prospect games. If he wasn't, that would be a problem. He goes on to say this: the 2 scrimmages here with our team, I think he led all our players in scoring chances by a pretty decent decent margins. So he's been very good in parts. There's obviously some inconsistency on how that translates into exhibition games, which I think is an interesting point. I didn't really mention it much throughout the draft year, but when it comes to Slafkovsky, there were points where the inconsistencies were there. I mean, you saw how he lit it up in the tournaments. I feel like that second half and those final few months is where he really started to find his groove again, but especially in the first half of the year, at least with the production and the impactful play shift by shift, there were a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of times where there'd be shifts where you are loving what you're seeing and others where he's a little bit of a rover and a little bit too much of a passive player. And I think you're kind of seeing that bleed over a little bit into the preseason, but again, for me personally, it wasn't as big of a deal as some other people are making it out to be. Article goes on to say this: Slafkovsky has failed to record a point in 2 preseason games in 26 minutes 31 seconds of ice time at 5-on-5 with the towering Slovak on the ice. The Canadiens have been outscored 1-0 and own an 37.1% expected goal share per natural stat trick. Hughes said it's no guarantee Slafkovsky will make the Habs out of camp, and this is where it gets interesting. We've got to do what's right for him, Hughes said. If we do what we said when we drafted him, we weren't looking for the best 18-year-old, we were looking for the best NHL player down the road. And I don't think we do that without making the best decision for him. Whether it's the popular decision or not, we're going to do what we believe is right. And to me, that is pretty wise on Hughes' case. Personally, for me, I mean, saying he's a little bit underwhelming. If I was the GM of the Montreal Canadiens, I wouldn't put that quote out there for people to grab and take. But at the same time, I do think saying that it's okay for him to be in the AHL is a good thing to put out there, because with the expectations of the Montreal Canadiens and some of the fan base out there as well, a lot of people out there expect a first overall pick to be in the NHL to start out. But I mean, we've seen cases over the years. You see Jack Hughes, you see Alexis Lafreniere, you see so many players every single year first overall that don't really pan out in the first season. And the Habs have recent experience with top 3 picks going into the NHL immediately, and no matter if they have success or not, it not being what they needed long term. And personally, with what we've seen so far, I continue to root for Slafkovsky going to Laval and truly developing along some great players and some great younger guys too. To me, that's exactly what he needs, and I think the exact league he needs to go to truly refine the more North American game and to get more consistent down there before the NHL would eat him alive if he were to start and play a full season. I would expect him to play some games for the Habs, absolutely, but to me right now, with what I've seen, I think a lot of us should be expecting him to go to Laval and to be okay with it, because I think that's what's best for him long term. And it goes on to say Slafkovsky will likely end up in the AHL rather than head back overseas if he fails to crack the opening night lineup, of course. The 6'3", 238-pound winger spent last season in Finland's top professional league, producing 5 goals, 5 assists in 31 contests. Montreal has 5 preseason games remaining before opening the 2023 campaign on October 12th against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So again, you get some more detail there, but yeah, I would absolutely expect Slafkovsky to be in the AHL, and I would expect him to be at a pretty great level. Even if at 18 there is still a lot of expectations there, I could easily see him again getting top 6 minutes, being on a top line power play, really refining that physical play and really getting a lot more consistency under him. If he does that, I think we'll see him at least a half a point per game there, and I think we could expect even more from him. But again, I feel like for his confidence, which I think might be one of the biggest things, I think the AHL is the exact spot he should go to. Yes, has he been underwhelming? Absolutely. But if the Habs play their cards right, I don't think there's any reason to worry. And this is coming from a guy that people called a Juraj Slafkovsky hater. But to me, I feel like, even though at the time of the draft, I could have seen him being in the NHL and being solid, the more I've seen from him this preseason, the more I think that that AHL spot is right. But I also feel like, considering the Habs situation, there's no need to rush Juraj Slafkovsky onto the roster. I mean, look what the Buffalo Sabres do with Owen Power. They could have rushed, they could have had him in the NHL if they really, truly wanted to, but they didn't sign him, they let him go for another year in the NCAA, and look how much his game has improved even since then. To me, he needed some real refinement, and he got it in the year not being in the NHL, and to me, that is so important. I mean, obviously, for a defenseman, I think it's more important than a winger specifically, but in Slafkovsky's case, there's the same type of unrefinement, where there's obvious talent, there's obvious potential, but still, I think more time needs to be put in the oven, and especially in Slafkovsky's case, if he gets that time, if he gets that patience that I think he deserves, I think he'll end up a first-line player and worth a potential first overall pick if that all pans out. But to me, that development path is going to be crucial because the Habs cannot have another top 5 pick busting on them again. Now, it's interesting to note because in terms of game score, impact, and isolated advanced stats, you can see with Slafkovsky in the first game he played versus the Devils, he was actually the second most impactful player for the Habs, and the eye test wasn't quite the same way, but there are some differences there. Now, when it comes to the actual second game he played, it was much worse for him. He was the 4th worst player on the ice, but again, there's some downsides, there's some upsides. Overall, though, you can still see a lot of unrefinement, even if it has still just been 2 preseason games. I think for the Habs, the patience is key, and I'm hopeful that they do take that into account. Now, I have yet to mention that, of course, there is still time, and as the article mentioned, there was 5 preseason games left, so there is, I guess, a slight chance that Slafkovsky plays amazing in these next 2 games potentially, and maybe gets a roster spot, but at the same time, I think the decision for the Habs has already kind of been made. Again, going back to Kent Hughes' words here, I thought the 2 exhibition games were a little bit underwhelming for him. I think for Kent Hughes, he's kind of seen what he's had to see so far, and although of course he puts great praise on the rookie games, I think his decision has already been made that Slafkovsky will likely start in the AHL or at least only play a few NHL games if he does. And again, going back to that key decision, I think it's a decision that the Habs should make to have him with Laval and keep that development as the main priority. There's no reason to prioritize this next season. The Habs are not going to be good, and if you're able to have Slafkovsky having a great year in the AHL, you have Cole Caulfield improving, you have Nick Suzuki improving, you somehow get a top 5 pick, maybe you get Connor Bedard. To me, that's a pretty successful season for the Habs in its own right. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the breakdown, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think of Kent Hughes' words and quotes here? Do you agree with him? Do you disagree with him? And where do you think Slafkovsky should play this next year? Should he be with the big club? Should he be in the AHL? Let us know down below. And of course, share the video with your friends, get the Slafkovsky news out there, and click on this card for all of my breaking news content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.